NBS actions are integral to the nature restoration law simply because they are inherently actions to conserve, protect, restore ecosystems and ensure the delivery of ecosystem services now and in the future.
Nature-based solutions have a key role to play in restoring and achieving the biodiversity targets, but also the climate targets, and fostering the so-called nature-based or nature-positive economy. The biggest challenge lies really in breaking down the current economic models, where one business reaps one service or one benefit stemming from nature. And we need to shift that from that economic model to one that brings together a diversity of stakeholders around the same goal of restoring nature and, as a consequence, benefiting from a multitude of functional benefits stemming from nature.
I would say the biggest challenge is really to dedicate political leadership and to organize societal support. I think it's absolutely fundamental to make the nature restoration law a success in the different countries. So we really need to involve everyone. That means the different governmental levels, going from cities to regions to the national levels, across different sectors. Many different ministries will need to be involved, not just the ministries for the environment, but also agriculture, ministries dealing also with cities, for instance, research ministries also. That requires a lot of coordination and cooperation. And not unimportantly, we need to work with the different actors. And by different actors, I mean not only governmental actors, but also non-governmental actors, citizens, civil society, and we definitely also need to work more closely with the private sector.
So the biggest challenges that environmental NGOs and think tanks will face is both in terms of the adoption of the law and then in terms of implementation. So the biggest challenge for us, but also it's also where the greatest opportunity lies, is to work out new ways to bring the public benefits to the private landowners who will be doing the restoration on the ground, and to work out new ways to bring the benefits to them, because they will need to be rewarded and supported for the benefits they provide.
So if restoration is required on the land, the most important criteria is, as I said, to include the landowners as a key stakeholders. The problem that we see at the moment is that there is no concrete framework in the proposal to involve all the stakeholders.
The biggest challenges for research in the context of the nature restoration law are probably related to this idea that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. There's no silver bullet. And so even if we are able to come up with guidelines and recommendations, they still have to be adapted to each specific context. So there's going to be continuous need for not necessarily research, but development and innovation to get things exactly right. But it's not an insurmountable barrier. It's something that we just need to recognize and address.
I think we also need another challenge for the member states is to create this societal support and to communicate very clearly. I think this is absolutely necessary to involve the public also, because we need to make this extra effort.
So there will indeed be an unequal distribution of both costs and benefits, and both among member states, but also among different sectoral stakeholders within the EU. So first, in relation to member states, in practice, they will have different restoration priorities on the ground. So for example, in relation to degraded peatland, only a handful of member states will have to restore degraded peatland, and it's something that has caused a lot of tension. But overall, the burden will be shared because there are equally other burning needs in the EU, such as restoring seagrass meadows in the Mediterranean, for example.
So what we see today as an opportunity is to move from the subsidy system for production that we have today to payments to manage the land in a climate and biodiversity friendly way, moving from traditional subsidies to payments for ecosystem services for the common benefits. And then secondly, we can not longer ignore the need of voluntary private land conservation measures to reach the biodiversity targets. These are initiatives that are complementing the legally required actions. And we should make sure that we provide tools, that we provide compensation and initiatives to make these voluntary contributions attractive for the landowners.
To achieve this new paradigm, we need business to embrace strategies in which they would coalesce with a group of stakeholders around, as I said, the same common goal of restoring nature and therefore achieving these multifunctional benefits. So I think they should really understand the win-win solutions, the fact that we all win together or fail together. So that's, I think, imposes clearly a shift of mindset from a business perspective.
And we also need to see that for decades, policies related to nature restoration and to biodiversity, NBS and also climate adaptation, they have been scattered over different political sectors. So to implement the nature restoration law would need that we need to change also the way we work together and also the way we look at costs and cost distribution. Now we know that many economic benefits related or that lead to, let's say, negative, that have a negative impact on nature. The costs of these economic activities are not always distributed evenly. In other words, the polluter does not always pay the price for pollution. Flights, for instance, airlines is a clear example of how an activity for which there are good substitutes are not taxed, let's say, in a just way. So that means that we need to have a different look at our tax systems also in different member states. We need to make sure that the transition that we talk about will be a just transition. And we also need to make sure that the polluter will actually pay more for the pollution that will be created. And we need to do this in a just way. We need to make sure that this transition is just, that the burden will be more evenly distributed. And actually, I would say that the strongest shoulders should really bear the heaviest burden.